Ladies and gentlemen, the future is here, and the future is now. Oh my goodness. Are we live? Is this happening?
I think so. I think it's happening. And I'm not going to lie, that intro was absolutely bananas. I love that. I can't believe you took the time to do that, but that was fire. I'm not going to lie to you. That was awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Rookie Sports Report podcast here. We're presented by ESPN The Jock. We're using their Twitter page, everything about them here, making sure we are live here and producing this podcast. Matthew Frizzell here alongside
Logan Weber.
Oh, my goodness. Logan Weber, we should probably tell these people why we're quote-unquote rookies. It's because, we were both born somewhat early, actually not early, late into the 90s. I was born in 99 and
I was born in 98, yeah.
Exactly. So I am 21 years old and Logan, you are 22, and that's why we're rookies here. We are fresh blood here at the Zimmer Communication Station, and look, we're here to have fun. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff here. Let's just get to know each other first off. Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Frizzell. Started working here at Zimmer Communications here on ESPN The Jock a couple years ago. Favorite sports teams, obviously, Missouri guy, so St. Louis Cardinals. You're going to like this. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan for the NFL. I know it's crazy, right? Los Angeles Lakers fan. Yes, another crazy. I'm not a bandwagon, I swear. I am not a bandwagon at all. And then also in St. Louis, I stay with the Blues. Logan, who are your teams?
So, I grew up about 35 minutes northeast of Kansas City. So being, I know, being in the Springfield area, that can be a little much for people, but I'm a Royals and a Chiefs fan. But in terms of with Kansas City and the state of Missouri in general, this whole sort of area, Nebraska, Iowa, not really having an NBA team, I actually cater towards my dad used to play a lot of NBA Live 2004 for no apparent reason whatsoever, but he would play it all the time. So I would watch him play, and he always played with the Boston Celtics. So I kind of turned into a Boston Celtics fan because of that, but I am actually not a Missouri fan. My dad was born and raised in the state of Iowa, moved to where we live now. My parents live now in the 7th grade, so that sort of made me an Iowa Hawkeye fan because he was born in Iowa, actually born in a small town called Hawkeye, Iowa. So the choice was made from birth for that guy, and I kind of just sort of followed suit with that.
Fair enough. Well, look, here on the Rookie Sports Report podcast, obviously we're two guys from Southwest Missouri, so we're going to cover our sports teams. Obviously, St. Louis Cardinals, Kansas City Royals guy yourself, Kansas City Chiefs, that kind of stuff. But hey, we'll talk a little national stuff from time to time. We'll cover a little national topics and whatever. And while we're on the topic of being on our team, the St. Louis Cardinals last night, man. Look, the Los Angeles Dodgers are a really good team, but the way they lost last night, 9-4, didn't really stick well with me. Obviously, the Dodgers, they're supposed to be competing for the NL West. They're in 3rd place right now, unfortunately, but, actually, not unfortunately. I can't stand the Dodgers. They're always in the postseason. They're always, dethroning the Cardinals at some point. Though, actually, the Cardinals have their number, especially with Clayton Kershaw on the Dodgers. Yeah. But, no, last night, losing 6-4, LA got 2 runs early on. Cardinals actually took the lead in the 6th, and then while their A-tier bullpen, and I'm being facetious in saying that, they got knocked around. Jack Flaherty pitched fantastic through 5 innings, actually injured himself while batting. Another reason why the National League should take out pitchers hitting and had a designated hitter throughout multiple leagues. I'm surprised Rob Manfred and the star of baseball hasn't made that decision yet with all the other stupid mistakes he's made.
Was that a joke?
Actually, absolutely. I can't stand Rob Manfred. I can't. I need to ask you, what do you think about, I know we're getting off topic here, but what do you think about the rule changes, like the 3-batter minimum, the runner starting at second? What do you think about those kind of options for Manfred?
To be honest, I don't, the runner starting at second thing I can sort of understand. I know that it kind of takes away from the integrity of the game a little bit, but baseball is one of those things, and we live in a society now, and I know for me, I'm more of a basketball or a football guy because to me, baseball just takes too long. And I know it's designed to be that way. It's a 9-inning game. So, I'm completely okay with 3 hours. But when we reach the point where a 9-inning game is 3 hours and 45 minutes or up to 4 hours long with commercial breaks and all these other things that are happening, I understand in a way you're trying to speed the game up. But there are certain things that sort of mess with the integrity of the game. And I think that starting with a runner on second base in extra innings is sort of one of those things. You're on the line there. Right. You're in that sort of gray area where it could be going too far, but you're not necessarily sure. Now, there are other things that Rob Manfred does a horrible job with. The Astros situation, that whole debacle, how nobody gets suspended for that.
No suspensions, no nothing. Really just, I shouldn't say suspensions. No one got it. Cora got banned for a year. AJ Hinch got banned for a year, and Jeff Luhnow basically got fired by the Astros. But, no players or anybody got any kind of punishment.
But, none of the,
But the players that throw, like the pitchers that are, quote, attacking the Dodgers, or attacking the Astros. Like Joe Kelly, he'll get suspended 8 games because, who cares about holding up the integrity of the game, correct?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's just stupid. And, I understand the runner on second base, but I don't like it to immediately start in the extra innings. Maybe, if it was in, the 12th or 13th inning, I kind of understand that. I hate 7-inning doubleheaders. Those are stupid. We're not playing high school ball. We're not playing college ball. And the 3-batter minimum, I'm kind of getting used to. I still don't like it, but it takes a lot of strategy out of the game. I don't like it as well, but anyway, we're getting off the beaten path here. Cardinals lose 9-4. Bullpen imploded like usual. People say the Cardinals have a good bullpen. They have 2 good bullpen pitchers, and that's it. And that's not good enough to get you to a postseason spot. Even if you are in the NL Central, which the Cardinals are now in second place now, thanks to the Chicago Cubs. They won, I believe, last night and now are in first in the NL Central. On the opposite side of the other league, in the AL Central, the Royals got a win over an NL Central opponent last night, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They won 7-3, Logan.
They certainly did. And, things sort of teetering back into the positive direction. The Royals are at 500 once again, 26-26, right? Got off to such a hot start in April, had the best record in the league, and then May just took a nosedive. But finishing off the month of May strong, they've won 6 of their last 9 games. Got a couple more games against the Pirates coming up here soon to sort of close out this series. And, got Adalberto Mondesi back last night, but it was sort of a quick spurt of what could be this season. He hit a 2-run bomb and then tweaked his hamstring rounding the bases and had to be taken out of the game in the 8th inning. Royals are saying it's just a precaution. They're not saying how severe the injury is, if he's going to miss any time. We don't really know that as of yet, but that seems to be sort of the mark of his career so far is injuries and things like that. And, right now we really need him. We need a guy that can get on base, first of all, a guy that can steal bases, because we've seen guys for the Royals this year take a step backwards a little bit. You're right, Hunter Dozier, who...
What happened to him?
Yeah.
My goodness.
People thought he had this bright future a couple of years ago, and even last year he hit the ball pretty well, but now this year he's down, I'm batting around 173, I believe. Whit Merrifield batting 250, which is not terrible, but for a guy that's batted 300 for the last couple of years, that's not necessarily what you want to see out of that guy, but... They're getting some good things, right? They get Andrew Benintendi in the offseason. He's leading the team in batting average at 284. Carlos Santana's hit the ball well. And you mentioned that the Cardinals don't have a great bullpen. That's kind of the Royals' strength right now is their bullpen, and not necessarily their starting pitching. Brady Singer and Jacob Junis, guys like that, sort of struggling right now. Chris Bubich. But, Danny Duffy doing his thing. So, yeah, a great win last night against a subpar Pirates team, let's be honest. They're not world beaters. There's a reason, right? They're in last.
Yeah, I think
NL
you saying
East.
subpar is a bit generous. They're 20-33. They're 5th in the NL Central.
NL Central, yeah.
Yeah, but Royals right now 26-26. I want to ask you from a Royals fan perspective, being at 500 about a quarter of the way through the season, is this meeting the expectations you had for the Royals?
To be honest, yeah, and I knew a lot of people growing up in the Kansas City area, a lot of guys that I went to high school with or people that I know in the area had really high expectations for this Royals team and expected them to, right, we're going to go out and we're going to win 92 games, we're going to make the wild card, right? Nobody really was saying that we were going to win the AL Central. It's a tough division, and I think anybody who thinks that the White Sox won't win that division is sort of fooling themselves a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you knew Detroit was going to be down. I didn't have any indication that Minnesota was going to be down. They're not really putting it together the way I thought they would. But, this is about where I thought we'd be. A 500 to, I kind of thought we would hover around in that 84 to 85 win range, right? We're not going to make the playoffs, but we're going to have a winning record. We're trending in the right direction. And when you look at the farm system, when you look at guys that are still down in the minor leagues. Guy like Bobby Witt Jr., which I know Royals fans are pushing down people's throats at this point. I'm sure Cardinals fans are tired of hearing about Bobby Witt Jr., but he is sort of the future of this franchise. I mean, right? I don't think anybody has at least in my experience, has had this much hype in the minor league system, other than maybe, and I hate saying his name out loud, but Bubba Starling. And we all saw how well that turned out.
Right there.
Yeah, people are really thinking that Bobby Witt Jr. could be a George Brett type guy, and I mean, he hit 3 home runs 2 nights ago in a Double-A game, so. The potential is there, but we just gonna have to wait and see when it shows up in the majors.
Yeah, I saw Bobby Witt play a couple weeks ago against the Springfield Cardinals, and it was an absolute drubbing. It was like 14-1, 15-1. Both teams had the equal amount of number of hits, but I mean the Royals farmhand, I think, what's their Double-A team? The Travelers, I believe?
Yes, the Northwest Arkansas Travelers.
Yeah, so the Travelers, they hit, I believe, 5 or 6 home runs, and Nick Prado hit 3 of them. Yeah. That dude's a beast.
Yeah.
What do you think about him as a prospect?
I think it's a tough concept when you've got a guy in the minor league system that hits a lot of home runs, especially if you're a Royals fan, because Kauffman Stadium is
good luck getting there.
Not a hitter's ball. I mean, it is a contact hitter's ballpark. Mm-hmm. Let me say that. It is not a home run hitter's ballpark, right? I mean, Jorge Soler is got otherworldly strength, in my opinion. There's very few guys in Major League Baseball, I think, that can hit the ball as hard as that man hits the baseball. I mean, he's got like Juan Carlos Stanton, Aaron Judge type power. Maybe a little bit less, but for a guy to hit 40 bombs out of Kauffman,
right,
it is pretty outrageous. So I think it's one of those things that if he's hitting the ball well into the gaps, if he's hitting doubles and things like that, then I think there's something to be said for that. But I take it with a grain of salt a little bit for a guy hitting home runs in the Royals minor league system, because home runs are kind of at a premium in Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah, if you're pitching for the Royals, you're trying to revive your pitching career because you're playing half of your ball games in Kauffman Stadium. I mean, take a guy like Chris Young, for example, in that 2014-15 season. He was a fly ball pitcher, Kauffman Stadium. It's a match made in heaven. Exactly, yeah. But no, Royals pick up a win, 7-3. They're back against the Pirates tonight at 7-10 at home. Will Crow go for the Pirates, and Brady Singer going for the Royals. And you talked about Brady Singer, one of the more touted top pitching prospects for the Royals, though having a bit of a slow start, 2-4 record, 4.91 ERA. Obviously with Singer, and you can name the other guys as well, what do you think about this young pitching depth that the Royals have in the making in AA and AAA?
To be honest, I think it's really, really solid. I mean, Brady Singer, he's had his fair share of struggles, but he's shown bright spots. I mean, right, 4.91 ERA is not exactly what you want to see,
right?
But he's only 24 years old. He's a big pitcher, 6'5", 210. He's got that low to mid-90s fastball. He's got a decent slider. And I think the potential is there. And, I mean, if you take a look at the Royals minor league system, aside from Bobby Witt Jr., 4 of the top 5 guys are starting pitchers.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely a lot to be said for where this pitching staff could end up. Now, I don't know if any of these guys are necessary. I mean, Asa Lacy, I think maybe could be that sort of Zach Greinke type guy.
Right.
I don't necessarily know yet, right? I'm not going to come right out and say, oh, yeah, this guy is the next Zach Greinke.
Yeah, I hate making those kind of comparisons with prospects because they haven't made it to the majors yet. You can kind of make, I guess, a guess as to where he's going to be, but saying, hey, he's going to be the next Zach Greinke or whatever, you can't do that with a minor league prospect, in my opinion.
Right, exactly. I completely agree with you. It's just one of those, and the Royals are not, right, the Royals have never been a franchise that has been known for having over-the-top great starting pitching.
Yeah, the last guy who did that was Zach Greinke.
Right, it was Zach Greinke. And, I mean, we've had decent guys in the past. I mean, we didn't have our 2015 starting pitching wasn't anything to sneeze at. It was good. It wasn't like top 10 upper echelon of the league, right? Well, nobody has Clayton Kershaw and Trevor Bauer or Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard in the same lineup. That's not what we had.
Right, because you had guys that could get you through the 5th and 6th inning, and then you had the three-headed monster of Madsen, Herrera, and then Davis.
Right.
All you had to do if you were a Johnny Cueto or Yordano Ventura, rest in peace, or whoever, all you had to do was go 6 innings and you were set.
Yeah, get to the 7th inning and have HDH, Holland, Herrera, and Davis close it out for you. It's game over.
That's how it was in 14, though Holland was injured in 15. But,
right.
I mean, Ryan Madsen came in and stepped up and did his job.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I love that 15 Royals team because, like, unlike baseball's teams today, they weren't guys that would hit home runs and strike out a lot. They were an old-fashioned kind of team, and you kind of expect that with a Ned Yost kind of team. And, you know, just the fact that they got the best record in the American League nonetheless and then pretty much breezed their way through to the World Series and then beat the Mets in 5 was fantastic to see. But now, I don't know if we're ever going to see that again, honestly.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's an every 30 years sort of thing.
Exactly.
That the Royals and these small market teams, you saw the Rays sort of do it last year, but they kind of ran into a buzzsaw on a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers. And that's one of those things that I really struggle with when it comes to baseball is I understand, and like the players like it to a certain extent. Why wouldn't they? They get these massive contracts.
Of course, yeah.
But with these younger teams that don't have an opportunity to sign upper echelon players with no salary cap and things like that, and the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Angels can have $400-500 million in cap that they're paying out, and the Royals are like, oh well, we have $60 million.
Yeah, it's a bit unfair there.
Yeah, so you go out and you win a World Series in 15, and it's like, okay, who do we re-sign? Do we re-sign Alex Gordon or Ben Zobrist? Do we try to re-sign Salvador Perez or Eric Hosmer, Johnny Cueto or Mike Moustakas, Lorenzo Cain? And you can't afford all these guys, so they all end up bailing on you. And that's sort of the nature of the beast in this league, and it's something that, as a small market fan, I struggle with a little bit.
This is turning into a Royals podcast with how much we're talking about them.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's totally fine. We're a couple of Missouri guys. You're a Royals fan. I'm a Cardinals fan. Speaking of the Cardinals, they do play as well tonight. They play at 9:10, man. That's too late.
That is late.
I gotta be asleep by then.
Yeah, that's fair.
I gotta get to sleep and work out. But nah, Cardinals and Dodgers tonight. John Gant will get the start. I'll tell you what, this man is Houdini on the mound. Every time I see John Gant pitch, literally in every inning, you can account for at least 2 to 3 runners being on base, and him somehow working out of a jam, pitching 5 innings, and somehow giving up 0 earned runs. John Gant, 4-3, goes up against David Price. That's an old American League foe there. David Price going up against the Dodgers. That game's set to start at 9:10. Well, last night, NBA playoffs, of course, were going on, and the Washington Wizards are able to salvage a game and force a Game 5. Final score of 122-114, but a big story for Philadelphia. Joel Embiid out for an injury, at least. They said what, like left knee soreness, I believe, for Embiid, and the Wizards come out victorious 122-114.
Yeah, I mean, one of those things, and good for Washington. I don't think that I don't see them winning the series. You're down 3-1. You were down 3-0. You avoid the sweep. That's kind of what you're looking for if you're the Washington Wizards. But all in all, you kind of looked into this series and thought, yeah, okay, the 76ers kind of have this, right? They have the advantages in almost every spot on the court, except for maybe the point guard position with Russell Westbrook. And, Russ put up another outrageous stat line, 19 points, 21 rebounds, 14 assists, did not shoot the ball well at all.
Like usual.
3 of 19 from the field, which is just horrendous. But, they got some good things out of some other people. Rui Hachimura scores 20 points, 8 of 12 from the field, 13 rebounds. Puts up a double-double. Right, for a young guy like that, getting some serious playoff experience that they need, and it's one of those things. And maybe if Embiid does end up missing some time, I saw from everything I read, he's sort of day to day, and he's struggling with it a little bit. But they only lost by 8. He only played. You're right. He played 11 minutes. Ben Simmons only scored 13 points. I think if you're missing Joel Embiid, he's going to have to score probably double that.
Right.
He's going to have to be a 20 to 25 points per game sort of guy. But I still think that there's a lot of talent on this Sixers team, and I don't see any way that this game gets to more than maybe a 6-game series. Maybe Washington can snag Game 5, but Philly closes it out in 6.
Yeah, I think Philly, because they're up 3-1, can be kind of cautious with Embiid, maybe have him sit Game 5 in Philadelphia nonetheless, and then rest him. But I mean, the Washington Wizards, 8 seed. I mean, they lost their first playing game, then won their second against the Pacers to get that 8 spot. And look, I'm going to say it right now, and I don't care how much flack I get for saying this or whatever. Russell Westbrook, with how he plays, is never going to win a championship. I know he is a triple-double machine. What he does statistically is incredible. I mean, like you said, 19 points, 21 rebounds, 14 assists. From a guard, that is outstanding. But with how he plays, shooting 3 of 19 from the field, it just kind of seems like he's more of a stat padding guard than a guy that's a leader. And it's been everywhere he's gone. It's been with OKC, okay? I mean, that 1 year where he was just by himself. I mean, he had Victor Oladipo, but that was before Oladipo broke out. He had that year by himself where the Thunder had to make an 8 seed just to play the Rockets in the first round, and then they lost in 5. With how he plays now, it's not team-oriented. It looks like it's more focused on him than the team. And with how he's playing, I don't think no matter who he has on his team, whether it's Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, we saw him with James Harden last year with the Rockets. With how he plays, I don't believe Westbrook will ever win a championship with just how he plays. He's more of a stat pattern than a guy that's a leader of a team. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, he's sort of that, Charles Barkley type guy, right? It's going to be tough for him to win by himself because his presence, right, he demands the ball. And that's one of those things, and James Harden is another one of those guys, but when you look at the Brooklyn Nets this year with...
So he has two other guys like...
Kevin Durant and Kyrie, but...
Durant's not a selfish ball player, I don't think. He's an efficient ball player. Kevin Durant, man.
Yeah, Kevin Durant is an absolute athletic freak, and I don't think it's one of those things. He might be, in my opinion, the most unguardable player in the NBA.
I mean, he's 7 foot. He can shoot it from 30 feet out. I mean, good off the dribble. I mean, he can rebound if he wants to, but I mean, with just how he shoots, he has a high release point, and you're being 7 foot. It's basically unguardable. He's scoring at his own will more times than not.
At 6'10", to be a 50, 40, 90 guy is outrageous. And I think James Harden understands that, I'm not the best player on this team. And Harden has had that in the past, right? He's got his MVPs. He's done the triple-double scenario, right? 50-point triple-double, all that stuff. And it didn't help him win, right? You still got bounced early on in the playoffs, or you missed the playoffs. So I think he's starting to understand, hey, maybe I don't need to be this guy anymore. Maybe I should divvy out to other people so that they can go out and score so that I can win. Right? I mean, I'll still get mine. He understands that. I'm still going to get mine. I'm still one of the best players in this league, so I'll still get 20. But if that means me giving the ball up a little bit so that KD and Kyrie can get 20 apiece and we can win, which is what happened the other night against the Celtics, where they combined to score 91 points, you're going to win. And as a Boston Celtics fan, it broke my heart, but there's nothing you can do about it. And personally, I don't think there's anybody in the league that can do anything about it.
Yeah, because Jason Tatum dropped 50 points and they barely won Game 3, and then Game 4, I mean, James Harden had 18 assists and Kyrie had 39, Durant had 42. Hey, just off the top of my head, what'd you think about Kyrie kind of doing that thing where he kind of stepped on the Celtics logo and just...
It's sports, man.
Yeah,
I mean, personally, I don't understand. That is not the storyline here, right? Anybody, and I understand it's always people that are upset about, and I am a Celtics fan, right? I have a little bit of disdain for what happened with Kyrie Irving and Boston. All that scenario, right? He came to Boston to be the guy, and then he saw guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown sort of moving into that echelon, especially Jason Tatum.
Oh, yeah.
And he got upset with it. And I applaud Kyrie for some of the things that he does, his community service work, the fact that he tries to take care of his own mental health. I love that in today's NBA, that guys are taking care of their own mental health. They're worrying about themselves as people first and not people's entertainment value, right? They're not a zoo. They're not just there for your entertainment. These are human beings. But anybody who takes a look at that situation and says, oh, well, that's the storyline. Kyrie stepped on the logo. That logo was stepped on 600 times during the course of a 2-hour game.
Right.
I mean, that happens all the time. That used to happen when I was in high school, right? When we would play football games, guys would walk onto the logo at midfield and they'd rub their cleats on it before the game and whatever. And you got a little bit upset with that, but as a player, that's sort of a motivation thing. As a fan, who cares what you think? That does not give you the right to throw a water bottle at a human being.
Yeah, fans got to, I mean, look, it's fantastic. I'm going to say it right now. It is fantastic looking at all these venues and seeing packed houses, safely packed houses, 16, 17,000, hearing playoff basketball. Not just watching it, but hearing playoff basketball. But, I mean, you got to be in control. I mean, you had the fan that spit on Trae Young, the guy who poured popcorn on Russell Westbrook. I mean, I'm not a Westbrook fan, but that's just disrespectful.
Yep.
And then the water bottle throwing it at Kyrie. Look.
Did you see the Wizard, the fan at the Wizards Sixers game last night?
Oh yeah, I tried to run on the court.
Ran onto the floor.
Yes, give that security guard a contract. the Washington football team needs to give him a contract.
That's what I'm saying. It was a great form tackle.
Exactly. Get him a tryout. But, I mean, I feel bad for the Celtics. Though I find it kind of weird in Kyrie's case, when he was with Cleveland and Boston, he didn't like the fact that he was going to get shadowed. I mean, obviously with Cleveland, whenever LeBron came back, he became in the shadow of LeBron and said, I want out. I want to be the guy.
Right, but he won. That's the thing that I have trouble understanding is, would you rather be the guy? Would you rather go out and score 25 points a game and have 8 assists and miss the playoffs, which is what you did in Cleveland before LeBron got there?
Right.
Or would you rather average 20 and 7 and still be an all-star, still be a perennial all-pro guy, right, all-NBA candidate, and win? You won a title. And it's not like you were an obvious second fiddle. You were hanging on in that series with LeBron, putting up stupid numbers. I mean, his Game 6 and Game 7 numbers in that finals were outrageous. You could continue to do that alongside LeBron, but you choose not to.
Yeah, and then the same scenario happens in Boston. He becomes that guy, but then, like you said, Jaylen Brown starts to come on. Jason Tatum, who is turning into a superstar right in front of our eyes, comes on, and now he gets traded to Brooklyn, and now with Kevin Durant and James Harden there, he's now at this point with his third team accepting the fact that he's not the number one guy. I think the number one player on the Nets is Kevin Durant, hands down.
Absolutely.
And the fact that now Kyrie has kind of shifted his focus to where, okay, I'm not the number one guy. I can be the number 2 guy, have Harden give me some assists and that kind of stuff. It's just weird that he's gotten to that now. And the fact, and like you said, I love the fact that he keeps track of his mental health, keeps it on track. But, when he says stuff like, oh, well, basketball is not my main focus. Dude, you're getting paid 7, 8 digits to play basketball.
Yeah.
That's kind of tough to say in a media market like this.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things, and he's had his fair share of issues in the past with that, but I think you're seeing the fruits of him finally accepting, hey, I don't have to be the number one guy here. It's hard for a point guard to be the number one guy and for you to go out and win a championship. And that doesn't really happen a lot in today's NBA, and I think the point guard position is the best position in the NBA today.
Right.
In my opinion, with what they're able to do, shooting the basketball, rebounds, assists, those sorts of things. He's taking advantage and understanding, hey, I'm not the guy anymore. So what does he do last night? 39 points, 11 rebounds.
I mean, come on, he's 6'3" and he's getting 11 boards.
That's crazy, right? You don't have to be the number one guy to put up stupid numbers.
Right.
Kevin Durant puts up 42, and you put up 39. And James Harden goes out and scores 23 points, 18 assists. And you win the game by 15.
And the fact that Durant's the number 1 option and he still puts up 42 just shows you how unguardable he is. No person in that league can guard Kevin Durant.
He scored 42 and only took 3 shots from behind the arc.
And that's what I also love about Kevin Durant. Russell Westbrook in his triple doubles, he'll chuck up like 35, 40 shots a game, get his 40 points, whatever. Kevin Durant does it such efficiently. Like I said, he scores at his own will more times than not. He'll go in the mid-range, he'll get to the line, he'll finish, and he has that outside jumper when he can, but Kevin Durant, man, I don't think we'll ever, or at least in my lifetime, we'll ever see a scorer like him. He's somewhat underrated in the discussion of best of all time, in my opinion.
In my humble opinion, I think that he could be considered by some probably the greatest scorer in the history of the NBA.
Oh, for sure.
With
no doubt.
His ability to score at all 3 levels, back to the basket, being able to pull up from pretty much anywhere he wants to. He 7 foot, handles like a guard. It's kind of outrageous the things he's able to do. And I think a lot of people don't understand he's sort of an underrated defender at the same time, right? He's a little bit skinnier, so he has difficulty guarding bigger guys in the post, right? He's not going to shut out a Joel Embiid or a Nikola Jokic sort of guy or Karl Anthony Towns, but he can guard on the perimeter, and he can take smaller 4s and even smaller 5s in this league, and I think that's something that is a little bit undervalued in his game.
Also in the NBA playoffs, in the Western Conference, you have the Utah Jazz defeating the Memphis Grizzlies 120-113. I think in this situation, it's kind of similar with the Washington-Philadelphia series. Memphis got their 1 win in Game 1 when Mitchell was out. All right, you got your 1 win. Pack up. You're an 8 seed. Go home. You're playing the 1 seed. It's a 3-1 deficit. Donovan Mitchell coming back with 30 points, 8 assists. Ja Morant, I mean, another one of those guys, a point guard who is just blossoming right in front of their eyes. It's really just a point guard-driven league, honestly. You got guys like, in the Western Conference, for example, Ja Morant's coming on, Damian Lillard. He's not in the playoffs. He was in the play-in, but not in the playoffs. Steph Curry, that's another team to watch out for. The Warriors next year, watch out for that team. But unfortunately for the Memphis Grizzlies, 120-113. And like I said, Utah's the 1 seed, Memphis is the 8 seed. Kind of just how it's going to go out.
Yeah, pretty much. You kind of knew that series was going to happen. And right, game 1, Donovan Mitchell's out. The Grizzlies win, and people are like, oh, are we going to see a 1-8 upset here? No. John Morant is a tremendous talent. I think he is an all-star sooner rather than later. Possible MVP type candidate here in the near future. I wouldn't put him on the same level yet as guys like Luka Doncic, who I think is in a league all by himself in those sort of under 25 guys.
Right.
But I think Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, John Morant, guys like Trae Young, they're in that same sort of category. But the Grizzlies still need more. Right. And Utah has enough, I think, right, with Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell. You got Rudy Gobert, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year guy, right? A Joe
Shut down
Ingles.
the entire league in 2020.
Yeah, exactly. He did. I mean, that did happen. Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Had to throw that in there, yeah.
Yeah, they've got guys, right? I mean, Jordan Clarkson, who's 6th man of the year for the Jazz, 24 points last night. He shoots a lot, 8 of 18, 4 of 9, but I know
he's there to score.
In this area, I can't really slander Jordan Clarkson's name. Yeah, I mean, I know he's a
Mizzou Tiger.
He's a Mizzou guy. Blah,
former
blah,
Laker
blah, blah.
legend, obviously. So
yeah, Laker legend, something like that.
Him and Julius Randle, of course. The Lakers let them go. I mean, at one point, Randle was a restricted free agent. The Lakers didn't renew his contract. He goes to New Orleans, goes to New York, and now is just becoming, he's the most improved player now. And then you got Jordan Clarkson, who was a solid scorer throughout his entire career with Los Angeles. They traded him to Cleveland, and now he's the 6th man of the year in Utah. I mean, it's good for them to see it, but you're kind of just thinking there, as a Lakers fan, Lakers fan in general, kind of just thinking, LeBron could really use that right now or whatever. But
I don't think they're complaining too much. They got their ship last year. And,
they did.
That it worked out.
Mickey Mouse champions, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Worked out for the Lakers. They got their title, and it honestly worked out for Julius Randle and Jordan Clarkson and D'Angelo Russell. Right?
Yeah, Russell.
I mean, all 3 of those guys. And I mean, not necessarily as much in Minnesota, but the Grizzlies just need more, right? The Jazz have more at more positions. Right now, the Grizzlies have a young, blossoming John Morant, and I think Jaren Jackson Jr. could soon turn into a 20 and 10
star
guy.
Player, yeah.
But other than that, they don't really have much, right? You're Dylan Brooks, who's a great defender, great 3-point shooter. He's a 3-and-D guy. I think he's more of a role player with what he does. Kyle Anderson is another role player type guy, but he's a starter. Played 24 minutes last night. Jonas Valanciunas, I think, is a great player, but I don't know how much longer he's got left.
See, the interesting thing about the Jazz, and I'm not going to put Donovan Mitchell there at the superstar level yet. I think he's that close. He's an all-star, but he's not a superstar yet. The Jazz, unlike most of these playoff teams, they don't have a superstar kind of player. They just have a couple of all-stars, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, and then a bunch of good role players that know their role and excel in it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like the 76ers, you have a superstar in Joel Embiid. The Denver Nuggets have Nikola Jokic. The Dallas Mavericks have Luka Doncic. And I've heard people say that they don't believe that Luka Doncic is a superstar caliber player yet. And frankly, I completely disagree with those people.
Yeah,
he is an absolute superstar, right? People look at that guy, and I know it's one of those things that people look, I say it a lot, but people think I'm crazy when I say it, but just hear me out. He is sort of he's like a modern day Larry Bird in a sense.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily a little bit the way he plays. I can see it a little bit in the way he plays the game, but people just look at that guy. Right, I can remember being 10, 12 years old and hearing people talk about, Larry Bird this and Larry Bird that, and you look at a picture of Larry Bird and you're like, this dude, this is who you're talking about?
This dude played basketball?
Yeah.
Or dominated basketball nonetheless.
Yeah, like this is the guy you're talking about who was the best player in the NBA in the 80s? Like, this guy and Magic Johnson. Okay, Magic Johnson I can understand, 6'9" point guard, but Larry Bird, and then you watch the guy play and you're like, oh my goodness, this guy is a freak. And it's one of those, he does not have the athletic prowess, right? Necessarily. You look at the guy and you're like, oh, well, he may shoot the ball well, but, he's not going to blow by me. He's not going to dunk on my head. Oh, yes, he is. Right. And people kind of downplayed that during the draft process. They're like, well, we don't know if he's got the athleticism to compete at this level. Well, I think he certainly does. It may not be flashy athleticism, right? It's not Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard, LeBron type athleticism, but it's pretty obvious that he is a great athlete, great ball handler, great passer. He is a superstar in this league, and I think eventually an MVP.
And the fact that he was a professional in Europe at 17, 18, 19 years old is a big reason why he is a superstar now in the NBA, because he played with grown men when he was in high school or high school age.
Right.
So he has got that skill set down already. Now it's just him focusing on figuring out the NBA and figuring out what works, and a lot of things work for Luka Doncic, though unfortunately they had a 2-0 lead against the Clippers and are now down 2-2. I got a question for that series as well. I need an Amber report for Amber alert for Kristaps Porzingis. This guy was supposed to be brought in to be that second superstar duo with Luka Doncic. This guy's basically been a 7-2 pole the entire series. Hasn't really done much for the Mavericks, and they're going to need him to do something to get that series back into Dallas's favor.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it's one of those things that he had so much hype surrounding him in New York, and then, when Dallas trades for him and you're like, oh, you're going to pair him with Luka Doncic, that could be a really, really good pairing. That could get Dallas back into that sense, right? It's sort of like combining Dirk Nowitzki at 7'2", not as talented necessarily, with a 6'7"
point guard,
Steve Nash.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
or Jason Kidd. And you're like, this could go really well. But, I mentioned earlier in the podcast the difficulty that Adalberto Mondesi has had with injuries. Kristaps Porzingis is sort of like that for the Mavericks. He has had his fair share of injuries, and for a guy at 7'3", that's sort of to be expected a little bit, right? Injuries are sort of the name of the game with a guy that tall. He's sort of slender, right? He's not a huge, big, bulking Shaq type guy at that height. Injuries are something that he's had to deal with, and it's one of those things that he is going to have to figure it out sooner rather than later, or Dallas is going to have to get another number 2 guy, and Porzingis might have to be that third option, because right now I think it's sort of Luka Doncic against the entire Los Angeles Clippers organization right now, and the fact that it's tied 2-2 tells you a lot, I think, about who Luka Doncic is as a player.
Fair enough. And for the Clippers, I think if they don't win a title here, Kawhi Leonard's gone. He's going to opt out. He recruited Paul George there instead of going with LeBron and AD to the Lakers. Obviously, that has not worked out. They were bounced, I believe, in the second round last year in the pandemic, and they're down 2-0, or they were down 2-0, now it's 2-2. Very interesting series, by the way. I mean, Dallas won the first 2 games in Los Angeles, and then Los Angeles comes to Dallas and wins the next 2 games, so that series is at 2-2. But with Kawhi Leonard, and you wouldn't think of him as being this big of an influence because he's a quiet guy, really shies away from the media whenever he can, not really flashy in that kind of sense. But he recruited Paul George from OKC to LA, thinking, all right, we got this superstar duo. We're going to compete with the Lakers, Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And that really hasn't worked out thus far in favor of Los Angeles.
No, and frankly, a lot of that has to do with Paul George hasn't necessarily been Paul George in the playoffs in recent memory. And I know a lot of people say, well, he's been like that his entire career. Well, you may have forgotten that he pretty much single-handedly took the Indiana Pacers to 7 games with the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals.
That had Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James all in their prime.
Yeah, and the second best player on that Pacers team was Roy Hibbert, which was like a flash in the pan, sort of like Andrew Bynum
for the Lakers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was like, he had like that 1 or 2 year stretch where like this guy could set the league on fire, and then he was gone. He just fell off the face of the planet. I think a couple of years later, like Roy Hibbert was seen sitting in the stands at a Pacers game. It's like, what happened to this man? He's just like a fan now after being an all-star. So he's had his fair share of issues in the past. And I just think it's one of those things, this Clippers team, the bench is not strong.
No, it is not.
You've got Daniel Oturu, Ivica Zubac, and Rajon Rondo and Pat Beverly. And that's sort of it. You've got a young guy like a Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard, who is not... Luke Kennard hasn't really panned out. That was sort of a waste of a lottery pick for the Detroit Pistons.
Right.
But the team is not as strong as you would like, and they're small. I mean, they don't start a center, right? They got Reggie Jackson starting at point guard right now. Paul George is playing the 2. Kawhi is playing the 3. Nicholas Batum is playing the 4.
And Ibaka at the 5. Yeah.
Ibaka. They started Marcus Morris Sr.
That's true.
I
forgot about Senior. Yeah.
At the 4/5, and you're like, well, and that's the other thing that's so disappointing about Kristaps Porzingis in this series. Whoever's guarding you, aside from Ivica Zubac, who comes off the bench, you more than likely have a 4 to 5 to 6 inch height advantage on that person.
Right.
You should have no trouble getting a shot off. And he had 18 in the game 4 loss, but still.
I mean, you're Kristaps Porzingis. You were brought here to give 20 points and 10 rebounds to Luka Doncic, who is a triple-double threat the entire game, throughout an entire series. Yet you're kind of I've been watching Kristaps. I saw him, I believe, in game 3, and he kind of just is moving around the 3-point line. He's not like really he's not demanding the ball in the post. He's just kind of moving around, setting screens for Doncic, setting back picks. He's not wanting the ball. And I understand from his standpoint the fact that, all right, I don't want the ball because we have Luka Doncic, but you need the ball in order for Luka Doncic to be his best. Right. He can get triple doubles or whatever, but you could still lose because you only scored 18 points. You need to score 25 to 30 points, give him 15 rebounds as well. Yeah, in order for the Mavericks to be a team that can go to the Western Conference Finals and compete with these other Western Conference teams.
Exactly. He only had 5 rebounds in game 4.
At 7-2? You only had 5.
Yeah, and 1 block in 28 minutes. And it's watching Kristaps Porzingis play a little bit. It reminds me of, when you're at the rec center or wherever, right? You're out playing pickup.
Oh, yeah.
There's always that 6'6", 6'7" kid that you're like, oh, well, this guy should go down in the post because the guy that's guarding him 6'1", 6'2". Like, go into the post and bully this guy, right, and he just sits around the arc and shoots threes. You're 6'7". You have a 6-inch height advantage on whoever's guarding you, man. Go inside. Go inside and go to work on somebody. Get in the low block. Get into the paint. No, I'm going to stay outside and I'm going to shoot 25-foot contested threes. Like, come on. And that's sort of the way Kristaps plays a little bit. Now, he only took 2 threes in game 4, but okay. I think he needs to do a better job of asserting himself in game 5 into the paint rather than just sort of, right, Porzingis and Luka need to play off of each other.
Right.
Porzingis doesn't need to play off of Luka or vice versa. That's not. It doesn't work that way. You've seen that work in the past. Like last season, it wasn't AD playing off of LeBron or LeBron playing off of AD. No, they were playing off of each other. And Shaq and Kobe, they played off of each other. And some of the best, and I'm not out here being outlandish and saying that Shaq and Kobe and Luka and Porzingis are comparable in any way.
Right.
But that sort of scenario with a ball dominant guard and a great big.
A post presence big, yeah.
Right. It could work like that a little bit, except Porzingis can actually shoot the ball. I don't think he's going to obliterate somebody and shatter the backboard like Shaq did, but he can shoot it. So pick and pop, pick and roll. You've got multiple options with what he can do. You go under the screen, Luka's going to shoot it. You go over the screen, right? Luka's got a shot at getting to the bucket, that sort of thing.
So if you're also a post presence, you can force double teams into the post and have someone like maybe a Luka or, for the Mavericks case, maybe a Tim Hardaway Jr. or a Michael Finney-Smith, I believe is what his name is, or someone else get open in the corner or wherever and hit knockdown threes. You don't have to have, I'm not saying Luka and Kristaps, like Luka needs to score 40 and Kristaps needs to score 30. That'd be nice. That's obviously going to be nice in a game, but you got to have your role players also stepping up, but you can't do that whenever you're moving around the 3-point arc and just looking to shoot the ball. But otherwise, in the schedule tonight for the NBA basketball, Celtics against the Nets. It's in Brooklyn. It's a 3-1 series lead. I hate to say it, man, but I believe this series is a wrap.
Yep, five and done. I mean, it's one of those things. I don't see anybody beating the Brooklyn Nets in a 7-game series. That's just me. And I know, right, the Western Conference is a more talented conference than the East. It has been for our entire lifetimes. Mm-hmm. It's been that way. Since the moment that Michael Jordan said, I'm out in 1998, the Western Conference has been better than the East.
Right.
And that's just sort of the way it is. But I don't really see a scenario where the Brooklyn Nets don't go to the finals, first of all, and win it. I think you've got 3 perennial all-stars, not perennial
superstars,
all-NBA.
Honestly. Yeah, these aren't all-stars. These are superstars on the same team.
And I don't see anybody. You're seeing teams in the West that you thought at the beginning of the year, oh, they could compete with these guys, sort of struggle, right? The Lakers are getting everything they can handle right now from the Phoenix Suns. And to be honest, I don't know who's going to win that series. It is an absolute toss-up to me. And, Nick Wright was on his show on ESPN the other day and said something to the effect of, I think LeBron can win this series without Anthony Davis. You're wrong. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean,
are you kidding? With what Chris Paul and Devin Booker have been able to do, I don't see any way that can happen at all. Chris Paul coming back from the injury, and DeAndre Ayton has sort of been taking Anthony Davis to the woodshed a little bit.
Yeah,
DeAndre Ayton has played out of his mind in this series, and I think that's a great thing to see if you're a Phoenix Suns fan. But, if AD plays, I don't know. This series could go any particular way. It's one of those things that I just don't see a way. Like I said, the Nets have way too much talent with those 3 guys. DeAndre Jordan isn't. They've got guys that you look at it. Right. Oh, Blake Griffin. Wow, look at all this stuff that they have. Those guys
are role players. There,
yeah, they're not what they used to be.
They're not superstars or all-stars. Yeah,
but with those 3 guys, I don't see any team in the NBA that can beat them in a 7-game series.
In the Western Conference at 8 p.m., it'll be the Trailblazers and the Nuggets. That's a really interesting series, in my opinion, because I believe it's either a 5-4 or 6-3 series. I can't think of the seedings, but for the past 2 to 3 years, it's always been, it looked like Portland versus Denver for they're kind of that middle of the pack kind of team in the Western Conference where they're like, they could compete for a championship, but also they could get bounced by like a lower seed. Portland and Denver, I think Denver would have had this series if Jamal Murray was healthy. I believe this would have been maybe a 5-6 game series, but now that it's only Jokic and Damian Lillard is Damian Lillard, along with CJ McCollum, they're an outstanding backcourt duo. The fact that it's 2-2 is kind of where I expected it to be. Like I said, if Jamal Murray was playing, this series would be over in 5 or 6. But now that's 2-2. The game is in Denver. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out kind of game, and it's a best-of-3 series now, so it's going to be that kind of series as well, where it's going to be knockdown, drag-out. I believe we could even see some overtime or some heroics from either Dame time or Jokic.
Yeah, I think this is a 2-7. Because,
2-7? Okay.
Yeah, because Portland was in the play-in.
No, Portland wasn't in the play-in.
Yeah.
L.A. and
Golden State.
Golden State were in, yeah. So I think it's a 3-6 because the winner of that first play-in game and this play-in tournament is stupid. I hope they don't do this again. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think Portland either got the 5 or the 6 seed. I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, it's a pretty scary 6 seed if you're in the Western Conference when Damian Lillard's on your team.
Yeah, I think sort of somebody that nobody really saw coming, Norman Powell, has been playing out of his mind in this series. I mean, in that Game 4 win that tied the series at 2, he had 29 points, 11 of 15 from the field, 4 of 4 from 3, and he put the absolute clamps on Michael Porter Jr., who with Jamal Murray being out, Michael Porter Jr. is sort of that second scoring option for the Nuggets right now. He had 3 points. 3 in Game 4. In 23 minutes, he had 3 points. Aaron Gordon had 6. He was a huge trade deadline thing for the Nuggets, and you thought, oh wow, this could really be something for Denver with Nikola Jokic and him at the 4 and the 5, and right, Jokic just throwing up oops to Aaron Gordon and him slam dunk contesting all over people.
Yeah, that has not panned out to Denver's favor at all.
No, I mean Denver had 4 guys in double figures. Jokic had 16. Caponzo had 12. Jeff Green had 11. And Monte Morris had 12. Those are your 4 leading scorers.
Yeah, that's putting the clamps down.
Austin Rivers, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, 3 starters, all in single digits. I mean, you can't afford that. And, Jokic didn't have a great game, 16 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist. Not a great game out of him, but, the guy needs help.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me because Jokic, We talk about Luka Doncic being like the 6'7", 6'8" point guard. Nikola Jokic is a 7'1", 7'1", not the fastest guy, obviously, but he is a point center in regards. But with him not having Jamal Murray and Norman Powell clamping down, like you said, Michael Porter Jr., the 3 of the 5 starters only having, single-digit points, you're not going to get many assists when the guys you're throwing the ball to aren't going to make their shots.
Yeah, and when you look at the box score from the other night, Portland wins this game by 20 points, while Damian Lillard shoots 1 of 10 from the field. He only had 10 points. Now, he had 10 assists and 8 rebounds, so a great job from Damian Lillard to be able to help his team win in other ways. But if you look at that as a Trailblazers fan, you think Lillard has an off night shooting the ball, and we still won by 20. There are good things to look at, right? I don't know if Norman Powell can keep up scoring 25, 26, up to 29 points a game. But, C.J. McCollum scoring 21. Yusuf Nurkic scores 17. So, they've got guys that can... You've got Carmelo Anthony coming off the bench who knows what that guy could do.
Yeah.
He could score 5 or he could score 25 like he used to. You never know with him. So, some interesting things could definitely happen in that series. Definitely the most intriguing, I think, of these 3 games that are going on tonight, because that Celtics-Nets game, I think, is pretty much a done deal.
Yeah, and that third game, we talk about the nightcap, the Lakers and the Suns, and I'm with you in that matter. Look, LeBron, if he was playing in the Eastern Conference, could probably do it, but he's playing out in the West. He's playing a Phoenix Sun team that has Chris Paul. It's crazy. However, where Chris Paul goes, the team starts winning.
Yeah.
Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton's playing out of his mind. Think about how good he's going to play when Anthony Davis is not there. I'm a Lakers fan myself, and I think, maybe with LeBron, this game will go 7, or this series will go 7, but him and Drummond and Gasol, that's not enough to stop the Phoenix Suns. And in my opinion, they need Anthony Davis. He's not going to play this game, so I think Phoenix takes this game, and then it'll go back to Los Angeles for that game 6. I think the Lakers will win that one if Davis is playing. Now, if he's not playing, I cannot see them winning that game 6 and making it a 7-game series. But yeah, it's going to be tough for the Lakers tonight, and I got the Suns winning this one tonight. And this pains me to say as a Lakers fan.
Yeah,
it really does.
I see that happening at the same time. It's one of those things that this Suns team sort of crept up on everybody, right?
Right.
Chris Paul goes to Phoenix, and I'm like, oh, they could be a playoff team. Mm-hmm. I certainly believe they could be a playoff team, but I didn't think they were going to be the number 1 seed in the West. And I think that's sort of the cool thing, is you're seeing the sort of transformation of the NBA right now. And I think if you see the Suns go out and beat the Lakers, that could very well be sort of the aha moment for a lot of people. Like, oh, the NBA is changing, right? You've got teams like the Utah Jazz and the Nuggets and the Suns in the West that are sort of changing the course. You've got young guys like the Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. You're about 4 or 5 years away from seeing any guy that we grew up watching play is no longer in the league.
Right.
Guys that were drafted when we were single digits in terms of age are no longer going to be in the league. Mm-hmm. I was 5 years old or 6 years old when LeBron was drafted. You're 4 or 5 years away from him not being in the league anymore. And honestly, I don't think it's that far away. I don't, with everything that's happened with the injury this year and him struggling with that, and came out and said, I don't know if I'll ever be the same again.
Yeah.
I don't know if, everybody's always said, oh, he's going to go out and he's going to play long enough so he can play with his son. I don't think his body can hold out that long.
Yeah.
And if he can, great, right? I'm not going to say that he can't do it, because he can. I'm not going to be the moron that says, oh, well, he can't do it, right? I'm not going to be the guy that after Kobe Bryant tears his Achilles say, oh, he's never going to be the same. I'm not going to be that dude. Nope. If you're one of the greats and you put the work in, you're going to be able to
find a way back.
Yeah. So maybe he can. I have difficulty seeing it with how he struggled with the injury this season and some of the things that he said in the media. But the league is changing. And I think if the Suns win this series, which in my opinion I think they will, it's gonna open up a lot of eyes and put a lot of thoughts into people's heads that the NBA is not what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's good for the NBA. Like the teams that, like the Suns, are in the playoffs and they're competing against guys, like you said, it's like it's the changing of the guard. It's no longer the fact that LeBron James is still the best player in the NBA. It's now, for say, in this series, Devin Booker or Chris Paul, who's one of those older guys I know, but it's a changing of the guard. And as a Laker fan, it sucks, obviously, because I want my team to win. I want them to win every year. Believe me, the Julius Randle, Jordan Clarkson, D'Angelo Russell days were kind of tough to watch, not being at the bottom of the Western Conference. But with the league changing, with all these young stars, you talked about it, like Luka Doncic, Trae Young in the East. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo in a couple of years will be that player, will be the number one player in the league. He's that close right now. If he can just get a consistent jump shot, he'll be that guy. But with all the young talent that's coming in the Western Conference, you got Donovan Mitchell, you got Ja Morant, who could potentially be an MVP kind of guy for Memphis. It's great to see that the NBA is transitioning into a new age. It's sad to see. Like you said, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, those guys, we grew up fans of those guys watching them play. Now that they're in their late 30s, we're thinking, how much longer can these guys hold out? How much longer can they have this production? And I know we're rookies on this Rookie Sports Report, but we all know you can't beat Father Time.
Undefeated. Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah. I wanted this podcast to be around 30 to 35 minutes. We're closing up on an hour right now, by the way.
I'm noticing that looking at the screen here in front of me, but time flies when you're having fun.
I know. This is a fantastic conversation, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Logan, it was great. Can't wait to talk about it tomorrow. Hopefully, the Celtics can survive for a Game 6. Hopefully, the Lakers win. But,
Tatum might need 60, but
I'm
going to say
he's going to have to pull out his inner Michael Jordan and take it personally and pull out 60 against the Nets in order for them to potentially beat the three-headed monster of Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. But that's all the time we have for this one, folks. This is the Rookie Sports Report podcast. Looking forward to where this takes us. For Matthew Frizzell
and Logan Weber.
Thanks for listening. Have a good one.